Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are going to start with our server.ts file. I remember I already said we are going to use the object-oriented approach. So we are going to be using lots of classes, okay? So unlike what we did in the notification service, we use the functional approach. Here we are going to use classes. So we define classes and then create an instance of the class. Now, don't worry about this error. It's just a TS config issue. I think if I close and reopen VS Code, the error should disappear. So first, in your gateway service, create a source folder, okay? The SRC folder, okay? Remember here we set the path, we are including it, but excluding node modules, okay? And now, let me go ahead and create the files that we are going to need. Or first, let me just create only the server file because we have a lot to do in this file. Okay. So in the server, this is where we are going to start our server. Okay. We are going to add some other functions as well. At first, let's go ahead and add our port. Server port. Remember, this is going to run on port 4000. And then let's add our log. So log of type logger. So we're getting logger from Winston equal to Winston logger. So from our shared library. And right now we don't have config set. Okay, so we can leave this empty. But then I'll call this API gateway service, or rather right here, and then debug. Okay, so this will be API gateway server, API gateway server. Now the reason I'm leaving this empty is because we have not set up Elasticsearch, and we've not set up our .env file. Okay, so we'll do that later. And now let's go ahead and create a class. So I'll export class. I'll call this gateway server. Okay, now this is going to take a private app property of type application. You must have seen this structure before. I've used it before in one of my courses. I really like the structure. Okay, and then let's set up a constructor. What this means is when we initialize this class, it's going to take in an instance of Express. Okay, so that is what this means, app of type application, and then we set this dot app equal to app. Okay, so this dot app, now once we initialize this, create an instance of gateway server, then whatever we pass as the instance of Express into the gateway server, we're going to set it to this dot app, and then this dot app will be available throughout this class. Okay, so this is just all we need to do. At first, we create a public method. I'll call this start. It will return void. Okay, and then the next thing is, let's create our security middleware. Now this one is very important. It's going to be a private method. So okay, you take application, and then it will return void. Okay, so now the first thing we need to do, we need to set app.set, okay, trust proxy. So if you're using Express, then you need to set this, because if we don't set this, and then once we deploy to production, some of our APIs might not even work at all. Okay, so you need to set this trust proxy. And now for our application, for the API gateway, we are going to be storing our JWT token in the cookie. Now, in some applications or some tutorials, you will see them sending it or saving it on the front end, maybe saving it to local storage. That is not a good approach. Please don't do that. Okay, you can either save it in your cookie, or you can create a storage store. Okay, like maybe save it on MongoDB, or you can save it on Redis. Okay, but don't save it in your local storage. It's not a good practice. Okay, so for us, we are going to save our JWT token, the authentication token, in our cookie, and then once we deploy to production, we are only going to be accessing it via HTTPS. Okay, so for local development, we will still be able to access it with HTTP, but once we deploy, it has to be through HTTPS. Okay, for security reason. Now let's go ahead and set up. Let's set a middleware that is going to use our cookie. Okay, we already installed cookie session. Okay, so let's go ahead and use that. So we import cookie session, okay, from cookie session. Okay, so right here, and then inside this app.use we pass cookie session, and then we pass in an object. Now we can set the name. You can give it whatever name you want, Jobber session or whatever. Okay, just give it a name that you can use to easily identify it. And then we set keys. Okay, these are just our secret keys. We are going to add them later. We've not created them in our config. We don't have a config yet. And then we set max age. Okay, 24 times 7 times, I think 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this represents 7 days. Okay, so the token will be valid for 7 days. Okay, you can increase, you can decrease. Also, we are going to implement a token renewal. Okay, we are going to see how to implement that later. So when the token is expired, or then we send a new request to generate a new token. So for now, we are setting this to 7 days. Okay, and then something that is very, very important, we set a secure property. Now for our local development, it's going to be false. Okay, this will be updated. We are going to update this when we set up. Okay, update with value from config. Okay, so once we set up our config, we are going to update this. What this means is, if you set your cookie in the session and then you try to use HTTP to access it, you are going to get errors. It's not going to work. Okay, so if we set for local development, is fine, but once we deploy, okay, and then this is true, once we deploy to production and this is set to true, and then we try to use HTTP, use the HTTP protocol to access it, then it is not going to work. The API gateway will be throwing errors. So if we set this to true, then our protocol will have to be HTTPS. Okay, but for local development, we can set this to false. We are going to update this later. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, and then here also same site, set to none. Okay, so once we want to deploy to production, we'll uncomment this part. You can leave this part as commented right now. Okay, because I think Firefox, Chrome, they have a different implementation of this same site, okay, property. Okay, so just comment this out. So we have our cookie, and then the next will be app.use HPP. These are just some security modules. We're going to import it. Then app.use helmet. We are going to import it. We have not imported it as well. And then let's add cause. Okay, and then we set origin. The origin is going to be our client. We don't have it as well. Set credentials to true. We set credentials to true so that we can attach our token to every request coming from the client. And then we set the methods that we want to use. Okay, we set get, post, put, delete, options. Okay, these are HTTP verbs that we want to use, or we are going to be using. Okay, so now let's import cause. So import cause, cross origin resource sharing from cause. So this will allow our client and our API gateway to communicate, because definitely they are going to be on different origins. Okay, so it will allow them to communicate. And then import HPP from HPP It's just a security module, and then import helmet from helmet. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. In the next video, we continue with adding methods to our server file.